Out of the 195 recognized countries on Earth, only 10 have successfully developed a nuclear weapon. In a world where military dominance dictates international rules, it is a glaring anomaly. This 5% of nations holds a monopoly on the most destructive force ever engineered. The origin of this monopoly dates back to 1938, when German scientists successfully achieved nuclear fission, splitting an atom's nucleus to release a surge of energy. It sparked an immediate fear that Hitler could harness this reaction to build a weapon that no conventional army could stop. To counter that threat, the United States launched the Manhattan Project. It was a massive, ultra-secret operation with one objective: beat Germany to the bomb, regardless of the cost. By 1945, the race was over. Germany had surrendered, but the U.S. deployed its new weapons on Japan, leaving the city of Hiroshima in total ruin and forcing a swift end to the war. American leadership believed this success would secure a permanent global advantage. However, other nations saw these mushroom clouds and reached the same conclusion. In a world where this weapon exists, any country without it is fundamentally vulnerable. The Soviet Union, although a key wartime ally, quickly realized they were being locked out of the new nuclear age. To close the gap, they infiltrated the Manhattan Project, using double agents to extract the technical blueprints for the bomb. By 1949, those stolen designs allowed the Soviets to detonate their own device in Kazakhstan. The American monopoly was gone, and the Cold War arms race had officially begun. Trust was also failing among Western partners. During the war, the UK and US signed the Quebec Agreement to share their nuclear research. But once the American project succeeded, Washington abruptly cut the British off, refusing to hand over the data they created. This forced the United Kingdom to restart its own independent program. Relying strictly on their own uranium reserves, they successfully tested a new weapon off the coast of Australia in 1952. Within 7 years of the first test, the blueprint had already spread. Neither extreme secrecy nor formal alliances could prevent the technology from crossing borders. In 1956, the geopolitical landscape shifted during the Suez Canal crisis. When France and Britain intervened militarily in Egypt, they were quickly threatened with retaliation by both the United States and the Soviet Union. This forced retreat convinced French leadership that without their own nuclear deterrent, their national foreign policy would always be subject to the whims of the two superpowers. China followed a similar logic. After facing nuclear threats from the U.S. during the Korean War, Chairman Mao sought to build a deterrent, only to have his primary ally, the Soviet Union, abruptly withdraw all of their scientific support after a major diplomatic fallout. China responded by mining its own uranium and finalizing a bomb by 1964. They deliberately codenamed the test 596, a direct reference to June 1959, the exact month the Soviets had entirely abandoned them. By the mid-60s, nuclear weapons were no longer just for global superpowers. They had become a shield for any nation determined to resist international pressure. As global tensions rose, regional rivalries began driving the next wave of development. Israel quietly built its own arsenal to secretly deter its hostile neighbors. They kept the project entirely hidden until the whistleblower leaked the files and was captured in a honey trap. In South Asia, India was still reeling from a 1962 border loss to China. To ensure they weren't left behind, they used nuclear reactors provided by the US and Canada, intended for electricity, to secretly develop a powerful weapon. In 1974, India detonated its Smiling Buddha device in the Rajasthan desert. While they publicly claimed it was merely a peaceful explosion, the physical evidence left in the desert sand clearly suggested otherwise. This test deeply terrified Pakistan, prompting a scientist named A.Q. Khan to quickly return from Europe with stolen centrifuge blueprints. His goal was to build a matching deterrent to balance the power in the region. Thousands of miles away, South Africa was facing total isolation. Under the pressure of global boycotts against apartheid, the government actively sought a nuclear deterrent to prevent Soviet-backed expansion on the continent. In 1979, U.S. satellites detected mysterious flashes over the ocean, widely believed to be a joint nuclear test between South Africa and Israel. South Africa eventually built 6 weapons, but remains the only nation to voluntarily dismantle them, which they definitively did in 1990. The regional arms race in South Asia culminated in 1998. Weeks after India conducted 5 tests, Pakistan responded with its own underground detonations in the Roscoe Hills. Non-proliferation treaties proved completely ineffective against this cycle. For nations convinced their survival was at stake, the threat of sanctions was secondary to the need for a deterrent. This drive for survival eventually led to the club's 10th member. After being rejected by both Moscow and Beijing, North Korea turned to the global black market to jumpstart its program. They engaged in an illicit trade, North Korean missile technology in exchange for the uranium enrichment blueprints A.Q. Khan had stolen years earlier. By 2006, the trade was complete. North Korea conducted its first test, officially becoming the 10th and final member of the nuclear club. The race continues today in the Middle East. Iran is currently expanding its enrichment capabilities under immense pressure from Israel, which remains the only nuclear power in the region. Saudi Arabia has already made its position clear. The moment Iran succeeds in building a bomb, the Saudis will move to build their own. This century of development demonstrates a hard geopolitical reality. As long as one nation's pursuit of security is perceived as an existential threat to its neighbor, the chain reaction that began in 1938 is unlikely to ever truly stop.